Funding for the art show was made possible by Montgomery County Arts and Cultural District, the Virginia W. Kettering Foundation, proud supporter of the arts in our community, and viewers like you. Thank you.
In this edition of the Art Show, a look inside Dayton's top hip-hop studio. Meet a home portrait artist. Take a sip of a new brew from an age-old recipe. And a carnival-themed sculpture exhibit that encourages audience interaction. It's all ahead on this edition of The Art Show. Hello, I'm Rodney Veal, and welcome to The Art Show, where each week we showcase local, regional, and national artists and arts organizations. When we think of enrolling children in dance, we think of ballet, jazz, and tap. We think of pink tutus. But there's a Kettering dance studio where 40% of their students are boys. The Funk Lab is schooling everyone in the art of hip-hop.
There's nothing else in the world like dance. Your mind is completely focused on the choreography and the music, and you don't even think about anything else at all.
It's kind of like inspirational when I come here because when I'm at school, I just can't wait to get to dance.
Funk Lab is a hip-hop dance studio located here in Kettering, Ohio. I have over 200 students traveling from 40 local zip codes. We have classes for children on the autism spectrum. We're basically a very inclusive studio here. I started dancing when I was 7 years old, and at the time it was the early 90s, late 80s, and hip-hop was becoming very popular, and that was something that I enjoyed so much at the studio that I grew up at. Over the years, it became increasingly difficult to find hip-hop dance classes, and that's really what I enjoyed. I did move to Chicago right after I graduated college, did some training there, became homesick, and moved back and made it my mission to bring hip-hop classes to Dayton so I could enjoy what I'm doing, but also live around my family and friends.
Hip-hop is very urban, and there's different styles. There's like street styles, and then there's like drill team hip-hop. Drill team hip-hop is the general effect of the entire routine, and urban hip-hop is more like how it feels to the dancer, and it's just how the dancer feels like dancing it instead of showing it off, you know.
So we offer urban choreography classes, and those classes are more structured in nature, like a music video style dance, although it's age appropriate. When you get into some of the more street styles like popping and breaking, those are more of a class that requires less structure. Students are taught moves, and then they're taught how to freestyle in circles that are called ciphers. They also are taught how to battle as well. When you see dancers do freezes and head spins and windmills and things like that, that's all breaking. And that is actually the truest form of hip-hop dance. When you get into the popping style, that's more of like the robot or some of the glides that Michael Jackson used to do with the moonwalk. Those are all part of popping. And locking is sort of your old school 80s rolling of the wrists and pointing that's featured in movies like Breakin', Electric Boogaloo, and those type of things. So those are the styles that we have here. Unfortunately, there's a new dance craze called twerking, and we don't do that here, and so I have to explain that to people, like this is age-appropriate movement. We actually teach true hip-hop here. It isn't about, you know, shaking your butt, basically. It's more about learning the actual true dance style. Sometimes people think that their kids are going to get into trouble or that this represents a negative lifestyle. But this actually has changed so many lives for the better. Dance is a great outlet for children who maybe don't feel accepted at school or maybe are being bullied. they really feel like a part of a family when they come here. And so it's more of a positive experience here than a negative, and I just explain that to people.
Dancing in general is just a different way that people can show how they are in like their personalities. Like some people enjoy doing art, like I enjoy doing dancing, which is what I love to do. Like I always dance in the kitchen or in the living room. It's just like my dad does it too with me. It's just you can never really take dancing away from someone. It's just kind of who they are.
I set very high standards for the kids, but not too high to where they can't reach them. And they always try their best to get to that point, you know, and I can tell that they're working really hard in practice, and I push them to a good extent, you know, that they can get to where they need to be for competition season. And even for the recreational kids, you know, I don't just let them run around and do whatever because they're not competing. They still have to have a focus and a foundation.
All right, I'll see you guys next week.
In the hip-hop community, battling is your way of competing. So there are different local events where you can go out and you can battle. And a lot of this, when you're an adult, is done in a club setting or in a park setting. And so we struggle with having events for kids. So we've created some of our own. When it comes to urban choreography, we actually do competitions where we create routines. And that is a big part. And the kids absolutely love competing, and they're really excited to do so. We started at a small studio, and we had such great community support and such great business here that we were able to expand into this new studio. And that to me was a very proud moment, because a lot of studios, especially hip hop and nature, aren't able to survive. Because it's a very difficult business to be in. So when I was able to move into a larger space and recognize that my dream was coming true, that was a very proud moment for me.
Funk Lab offers classes for kids, teens, and adults. For details, visit thinktv.org and click on the art show. Cincinnati artist Carol Abbott began painting at the age of 10. However, she didn't pursue a career as an artist until years later, when she picked up the brush and found her true calling, painting houses.
I can remember in 5th grade, my parents let me go to the Findlay Art League, and I painted with all the adults and took classes and got my own oil paints. My mom said she always tried to get me to play with dolls, because she liked dolls when she was a little girl and I was the only daughter. I would get these paper napkins that had embossed designs on them, and all I would do is color designs on those paper napkins. She could never get me to play with dolls, so it was pretty early on. I feel lucky that I always knew what I was, was sure what I wanted to be. I started taking fine arts in college, but I decided, well, I'm gonna go into graphic arts because that way I can have a better chance of earning an income. Well, I got out with my degree and I got involved in it, but I really wasn't the greatest graphic artist. And I gravitated away from actually creating things to selling equipment to the people that printed and produced books and posters. It was a great way to earn an income, and at least it was sort of adjacent to what I was interested in. But I used to come through here in the Pendleton Arts Center and just think, oh, that's what I wanted my life to be. If I won the lottery, that's what I would do. And my friends are like, why do you have to win the lottery? Why don't you just do it? Well, I guess when I had nothing to lose, then nothing was holding me back. And that was 9 years ago. And I'm still here. I'm not gonna lose it again. I did grow up in Findlay, Ohio, which has beautiful old Victorian gas boom homes all along Main Street. So that was my environment, but I started wanting to paint houses from the very beginning. And that was always the subject matter that drew me. That's what's a fun part of the job is, one day it'll be a very intricate, older Victorian home, and then the next day something very modern. Some people see every tree as being different and having a personality. That's sort of the way houses are for me. And I've painted homes that are almost the same design, but everyone is different to me. And talking to the people that live there even make that more so. That's one of the things I enjoy about it, is talking about when they bought the home and their life there. That all makes it part of the personality of the painting. If I can go and photograph the house myself, I'll usually go around sunrise or sunset, and I want a sunny day where the planes are really distinct on the house, because that gives it the shape. That makes it come alive. It's sort of like if you do a portrait of a person and the face is what makes it come alive. For me, a dramatic light effect on that building is what makes you notice it. So I always have to do drawings of a subject before I paint it, just to kind of get to know the angles of the house and know where the perspective problems and things are. So I'll show them the drawings from the left, from the middle, from the right, and I'll kind of get a feeling from talking to them about those, what they like and don't like. And if there's something that really bugs them, they'll say at that point, which is good because then I have time to fix it. I'm looking at the photos that I took and kind of thinking about what background color I might use on my canvas. So a lot of times I'll take a canvas sheet and divide it into 4 quadrants and paint some different background colors on it, really different. And then I'll do some color sketches of the house on those different backgrounds to see which ones work right. I'll look for things that I definitely analytically know I've got to change this angle, or this has got to be lighter, this has got to be darker. And then once I know what the client wants, I'll take the real canvas and coat it with the background color that I've picked. Color's what I like about painting. It's like a mad chemistry experiment sometimes, mixing the different colors. And acrylics are fun because it's almost like watercolor. It's like laying transparent film on top of each other. The color will change, but the underneath colors show through. I've learned that instead of mixing acrylics on the palette like I do with oils, I actually do mix them on the canvas. I'll lay layers of color on the canvas. So I'll just start putting in the more dramatic darks and lights and kind of drawing in paint. I'd much rather draw in paint than with a pencil. And in about 10 or 15 minutes, I'll be into a zone where I'm not thinking about it at all, and it's just happening. Every once in a while, one will just flow out, and you kind of have to learn, leave it alone. Sometimes it's just stepping back and looking at it and seeing, is this really done? They're usually surprised because I'm not the kind of painter that paints it very realistic looking. Sometimes people will say, well, you know, Carol, our roof isn't that color. So I think they're excited by the surprise as well, because it's not gonna look exactly like the photo. And so then it becomes a part of looking at it enough to let it tell me, is it finished? And sometimes I'll ask for help, even from the person that's commissioning it. I'll take the real painting and show it to them. And if they think it's not finished and they want more, they're the customer, so they're always right. And in that sense, it becomes something more than what I've done too, because they've worked on it with me, and that's satisfying.
Interested in commissioning Carol to paint your house? Head over to thinktv.org and click on the art show for her contact information. Did you miss an episode of the art show? No problem. You can watch it on demand at thinktv.org. You'll find all of the previous episodes, as well as current episodes and links to the artists we feature.
I usually have something in my head of what I want to do, and then halfway through, it goes in an entirely different direction, and I just follow it. And that is really. And then what I do is I look at it and I say, well, you know, maybe we can just tear it off here. I think it's the finishing touches, little finials that I incorporate. And that's the fun part, really. I'm inspired by the mountains or, you know, the streams, just everything. I like trash. I'm really into recycling. When I walk through a parking lot, my head is down and I'm looking at the ground. When the cars ride over the tin cans or wire, I look at it and say, oh, wow, I can use that. Because most potters just do pottery and glaze, and I started out that way, and I'm always trying to push the limits. How can I do this differently? How can I make it look different?
We want to introduce as many local artists to the community as we can. So email us a short video like the one you just saw, and maybe we'll give you a quick shout out. It doesn't have to be professional. Shoot it on your iPhone if you want. Just show us your studio and some examples of your work. In this next segment, we tour the Atwater Brewery in Detroit, Michigan, where we learn the art of brewing. With dozens of grains to choose from, the possibilities are endless. A prospect Atwater and his customers are quite pleased about.
Art and beer is individual, and that's why there's so many breweries in the state of Michigan, over 110, and customers love that too. So each individual brewery has their own story, has their own beers that they make, and that's the true art of it, because there isn't one beer that's alike.
It's something that people will go out of their way to purchase or to try. Breweries have become destinations, travel destinations for people. People will go out of their way to find beer at the source.
Yeah, I would compare brewing kind of like being a chef, where you have all these different ingredients available and you want to find the right combination to make a beer just the way you want it. And then it's also very rewarding when you make a beer that you like and you find out all these other people like it too.
No one started with 100-barrel tanks like places are moving into now. It all started very small and very, again, hands-on is the best way to describe it. So you've got your palette of ingredients and you've got your equipment, and you're blending it together in a unique way to create a unique product.
I think it's what separates craft beers from like the huge mega brewers is the fact that the mega brewers are just making very light, plain beer that appeals to just about anyone. Like it's hard to dislike one of those big beers because there's not a whole lot of flavor to it, and people who like craft beer are looking for something more. So we have different types of grain that we use that make it darker or roastier. We have different hops. You can add a whole lot of hops, make it hoppier. You're more and more getting into like sour beers, like Belgian style beers that are made in the US. So all these different things that have very distinct flavors that aren't for everyone, but they're more of like a gourmet product, really.
We could easily just make vanilla Java Porter and Dirty Blonde and do nothing else, and probably still sometimes struggle with meeting the demand. But as everybody likes, as an artist and in that realm, you always like to spread your wings a little bit and see what else you can do. You want to test your own limits, test the limits of your equipment, and it allows us to have a little bit of fun.
Get all these different ingredients you can mix together in different combinations, give you different results, and you can just play with things from there and alter things. You can come up with a simple beer and then come up with variations of that beer. I mean, it's endless how far you can go with it. Dozens of types of grains and hops and processes you can use, and different strains of yeast, and you have to learn them all and figure out which of these will give you the flavor that you're looking for, so that you can come up with a creation, really, what it is, that's unique to your brewery.
We really kind of cover all the bases. We have approximately 30 different labels that we produce, whether it be all year round, occasional single batch production, or seasonal production.
It's nice to make something that people appreciate and people really enjoy. Like when people really like one of our beers, they become big fans of it. It's not just something that's convenient or cheap, or they're buying it because they really like it. And we're still doing things where we grab the 50-pound bag of malted barley, and we're putting it into the mill to grind it, and it takes at least 17 of those to make a batch, sometimes more. And we're throwing in the hops right into the pot, just by hand. Everything's kind of by hand. So it's different than, like, I've done tours of some of the huger breweries in this country, and you hardly see any people there. You might see as many people in one of those as you see in one of these small breweries, because everything's automated. Here, everything's kind of done by hand. Even the bottling part of it, it's loaded and unloaded by hand, and I think that's the big difference. I think there's lately a lot of pride in Detroit, in the city that's taken a beating over the last few years, but everyone, I think, is starting to stand up and say this really is a great city, a great old town, and it really gives you, I think it means a lot to people throughout the Detroit area and throughout the state that this is made right in the city of Detroit.
One of our slogans is we're bringing Detroit everywhere, and it's showing, and the Detroit name does very well. We're gritty, we're resourceful, we're blue collar, we're hard workers, we like to have a great time, so it's very rewarding.
I like it when I sit down at the bar at the end of the day or take home a bottle, and we just had our blueberry cobbler beer, and I took one gulp of that and I knew it was just right on. It was just like dessert in a bottle. So it's always a satisfying thing. I suppose it's true for whatever you do. If you're working on something and you complete it and you know it's good, it makes you feel good. This is more than just a home brew. This is something that you can go to any store and people talk to me about beers. People all around Detroit have heard of it and tell me they love the beers, and it feels good to say, yeah, I made that.
We know we've gotten it right when we need to make more, and we can't make enough.
Check out thinktv.org and click on the Art Show for a link to all of Ohio's breweries. There are almost a dozen right here in the Miami Valley. We receive quite a few emails each week, so keep contacting us with your story ideas. Let us know what sets you apart from other artists. Send an email to theartshow@thinktv.org. Include contact information and links to performances or art samples online. It's called The Sideshow of the Absurd. This exhibit, created by multimedia artist Pamela Joseph, has traveled around the country delighting patrons with its interactive nature. The Sideshow showcases an overarching theme of the power of women. Let's take a look.
I love the idea of bringing art to the people. And I think if you look at carnivals and sideshows, they're historically an early form of public art.
Sideshow of the Absurd brings the carnival indoors. Upon first impression, the carnival atmosphere is humorous and fun. Joseph, though, is using it to introduce deeper concepts.
This show, and Pam Joseph's work in general, is such an incredible departure for us. I would love for people to come in and have their expectations challenged on so many levels, on what they expect from the museum, on what they expect of art, but really what they expect of themselves, or to take a look at what society expects from them. And the wonderful part about Sideshow is it does all of those things.
Each exhibit is individually prepared and presented, and for each one of us it's going to be different. So when you navigate the show, you're going to have different experiences with each of the different sculptures. I think the overriding theme is, of course, the power of women. I came from a very matriarchal family, very strong women. To be a woman in today's society is so challenging. I mean, there's so many roles that a woman has to accept: a mother, a homemaker, but a sex symbol also, maybe an athlete. And women are stronger than ever in terms of business, but they're still not recognized in art.
From Joan of Arc to Wonder Woman, female icons, both real and imagined, can defy, defile, and define who women are. Assessing her own femininity, artist Pamela Joseph developed a massive exhibit with 175 works, including a larger-than-life representation of herself.
Pussy Marshmallow was my alter ego. I mean, she's strong, she can lift Max, the world's largest house cat, over her head, but she has a marshmallow head, so she's soft and sweet, and she's vulnerable. And that's, encompasses a lot of the sides of women. I mean, she shows she is not afraid because you go through all these situations in life, whether you're a man or a woman, and you have to have a sense of bravery.
Pussy Marshmallow is among my favorite characters in the exhibition. She's something that I would aspire to be strong, but to also be compassionate. But the show has so many characters to offer.
Among those characters, there's an alien fortune teller who's dispensing a variety of free advice.
I feel that you are worried about financial matters. Now is the time for you to go forward, not to enter the arena. That is the easy part.
There's the Torture Museum where Pussy Marshmallow confronts deathly feats. Not absurd enough? How about a 12-foot-tall lady sword swallower?
One of the themes of the show is about difference, about otherness, about freaks, about people that are not like us. I think we all are freaks together. We're all not perfect, all things aren't just the way it should be. I mean, people are different. And just because we might not agree on certain issues, it doesn't mean we can't have a discussion about them.
The diversity of the pieces that you're seeing here, I think, is essential to questioning all of our preconceptions and making us think about the way we view other people.
For me, it's very important to have a narrative, to have a meaning involved with my pieces. Social issues are important for artists, and I see that role still as something very active in art today. I think you can go in and look at the Shamunda banner, and she is the horrific destroyer of evil. She is the mother warrior, and you can start thinking about why is she so important in today's world.
When you come into a museum, you are expected to behave in a certain way and that you aren't allowed to touch the art.
But touching and interacting with the art is essential to Joseph's work. So let's step right up. Take a chance at the baby wheel of fortune. Pull those levers and cranks and venture through the oddities tent.
If you make it sort of a fun experience, it's a part of their daily lives, it changes the way people look at art. The title of the show is The Sideshow of the Absurd. So we have to remember that our lives are absurd. And if we don't have a sense of fun, wonderment, and laugh at our problems, then it's going to be a very long road.
And that wraps it up for this edition of The Art Show. Until next time, I'm Rodney Veal, and thanks for watching.
Funding for the Art Show was made possible by Montgomery County Arts and Cultural District, the Virginia W. Kettering Foundation, proud supporter of the arts in our community, Ohio Arts Council, Ohio Humanities Council, and viewers like you. Thank you.